Hello and welcome once again to the Writer Albert Lanier channel. I, of course, am the writer Albert Lanier, and this is another edition of Outro, the show about shows, the show dealing with shows, the show of shows. I, of course, am your host with the most. And we are here to deal with the latest installment, or should I say, the latest interview, actually, both. Latest interview I did on a show called, drumroll please, Positivity is the Way to Go. And the host is, I think, Dion Davis, I believe. And you can catch the show on the Dion Davis channel on YouTube. Um, you can go and look up Positivity is the Way to Go. Also, look up the Dion Davis channel on YouTube. And of course, you'll find my interview there. So far, it's done okay, done pretty good. Um, I was there, of course, to discuss football, actually. I was there to discuss the NFL because, as anyone who follows this channel knows, I, of course, I am an analyst for a show from Temecula, California, called The Writer Report. And the Writer Report can be found at mixlr.com. That's mixlr.com. And I do it Mondays. So I do it Mondays. I'm actually taping, well, not taping. I'm actually doing this live on a Monday. So I actually did my segment already. So that was nice. Normally I do it live, but did my segment already. So you can check out that show. So I was there to talk a little about that. I obviously mentioned it, but I was there to talk about the NFL and the NFL season thus far. And I had a good time. I really did. I had a good time on the show. It's been, people can always hear my insights on my NFL Hot Topics segment on the Writer Report. Of course, if you also want to know what I think about the NFL, you can go to my show right here on YouTube. I have my own show. It's something I'm experimenting with or trying to experiment with, short form sports content. It's called The Wise Guy Show. And just had week 9 episode come out. So you can check that out right here on the Writer Albert Lanier channel, right here on this channel. So you can check it out. Check it out after this. But I really don't care when you check it out, so long as you check it out. Of course, the name of the show, my show right here on YouTube, The Wise Guy Show. And I looked through the weeks, the NFL week. I could call it NFL Week in Review, but that's a bit more formal. I just call it The Wise Guy Show. So hello to those in the chat. And so I mentioned obviously both shows, but I talked about the NFL. So, and I talk about that on the Wise Guy Show, and I talk about that on the Writer Report. And thanks. Somebody says they subscribed. Well, thank you. But I think when we look at the season, it's already week nine, and it's the middle part of the season already in regards to the NFL. And it was a really weird week. Week 9 was a really weird week. There were some weird either victories or just or just losses. I think the Packers losing to the Panthers. I think the Panthers got pretty much beat up by the Bills the previous week. And they came out and they played a good game against them. Bryce Young was in, so that made a difference. It wasn't Andy Dalton in the game as backup. But they played a good game. And this is the thing that I would say about Green Bay. And I think there's a template. I had said before that Green Bay, their defense looked scary in the first 2 weeks. They were slowing down the Lions, really good team. They were slowing down the Redskins, They were a good team last year. And they were keeping them to under 20 points. And then, they ended up losing the Browns. Browns managed to get a victory over them. Their defense really kind of manhandled that offensive line. And they played Dallas, and they gave up 40 points to Dallas, and that's when I knew that this defense was pretty much exposed. They weren't really as good as they seemed. Um, and so far, the Packers have managed to win some games, and they're doing okay. But I think there is a formula for beating the Packers. Whether any of the other teams are able to do it, I don't know. And the formula is aggressive defense. You've got to have aggressive pass rush and to try to get to him. Meaning Jordan Love, you got to have a passive rush, uh, pass rush, and you've got to be able to stifle that offense. Get them to score under 20 points. If you could hold the Packers to the teens in regards to points, if you could get them to less than 20, maybe 10, maybe 17, you got a chance to win. But you've got to be able to hold them to a smaller amount of points. And you've got to be able to then get the ball in the fourth quarter and maybe kick a field goal. And if you look at the losses for the Packers, that's what they've largely been. The Browns won on a field goal late in the fourth, and the Panthers won on a field goal late in the fourth. And I think that's the pattern. That's the way to beat them. I think if you get above 20 points with the Packers, it's going to be hard to beat them. So that was one of the weirdest losses. Some people might say the Colts loss to the Steelers was a weird loss or a strange loss. Well, I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a fan of three teams, really, and Steelers are one of them. I don't think that's a weird loss as it is an unexpected one. I don't think anybody expected the Steelers to rip through that offensive line of the Colts. And they got 6 turnovers in that game. I mean, I don't know that anybody expected that, really. So yeah, I've said this about the Steelers defense. It's off and on. There are times when they're really on the mark and they can do it. It's really dependent on pass rush. If they can't get to the quarterback at least a couple of times, if they can't be disruptive, if you've got at least a good if not a good offensive line, then at least a decent offensive line, um, then you got to, then it's gonna hurt their defense. But they've got to get to the quarterback at least once or twice, and they've got to get the ball. They've got to get turnovers. They're a ball hogging team, and so that's really important with the Steelers. And they were able to do that. They got 6 turnovers in that game. They had a lot of turnovers in that New England Patriots game. Um, so it's really interesting seeing. Um, I'm not really surprised. I thought the Colts were going to win that game, but I'm not really surprised the Steelers won. I'm not really surprised. Um, I think the Broncos barely beating Atlanta. That's another one. The Broncos have had some games where they've really just eked it out. They didn't do well against the Jets, surprisingly. They didn't do well, and they obviously came back against the Eagles. The Eagles are a good team. Um, and the Falcons are not really a good team. They're at best mediocre. Sometimes they played well. I mean, when they played the Bills, the Falcons were really good. I mean, you would think they're a 5-1 team or 6-1 team the way they played the Bills, but they're not. And the Patriots really got by in this game. They're slowly putting it together. It's beginning to pay off now. Drake May's paying off as a quarterback. This offense is paying off in terms of scoring. The defense is doing enough to help get them, you know, Um, so you look at this. You uh, the Broncos are late, kind of a late starting team. They're a kind of a late starting team. Like it takes them a game or two because I think they lost the first game this year. It's a late starting team, really offensively. And Bo Nix eventually gets around, and they also seem to be a second half team that'll come back. And they barely, I mean, the Broncos barely beat. Sorry, I was talking about. What was I talking about? Yeah, I was talking about. Well, the Broncos are playing the Texans. They barely beat the Texans. They got a field goal at the end, and that seems to be signature. Eking out those unglamorous wins. Another team that barely got by was the Chargers. The Chargers barely got by the Titans. That was one of that's one of the big surprises. The Titans got their offense really wasn't that productive. It was really special teams with the touchdown. It was the defense which had a pick six that helped them, and they managed to come back. I think they lost Joel again. Just tough for the Chargers. I think it's kind of tough. They've had some key injuries on that team, and I think it's going to be really tough for the Chargers, even if they make it to the playoffs, which they might very well. It's going to be tough because they're competing with the Denver Broncos in that division. But it's going to be very interesting right now. And I'm trying to remember what else I said. I don't want to give away too much, but I think I'll leave it at that point. It was a very odd week. But I don't think it was talking about the week. I was talking about the NFL previously. So if you want to find out what I talked about on the show, go and check out Dion Davis's YouTube channel. And the show is Positivity is the Way to Go. That's Positivity is the Way to Go. And I was a guest there last week. I think it's gotten over 100 views thus far, so it's okay. Um, so that was the latest, and that has been the latest and the greatest right here on Outro, the show about shows. I'm Albert Lanier, and I'm signing off. I'll see you when I see you. Be seeing you.